Let's see how you can spawn up n8n on your local machine as well as on the cloud. We have 5 different ways and also give some bonus tips while setting up n8n. You should be taking care of them. The very first one is to use npm, which is Node Package Manager. I'll open up my terminal to give you some demo. So here I have npm installed, so I'll do npm-v. In order to have this npm, you have to have Node.js installed on your local machine. Now, since I have npm installed, I'll do npm install. Package name is n8n and the parameter option is -g, which installs this n8n globally. I'll press enter. It will take some time. I already have this installed, so I'll press Ctrl C to stop the process. And you can check this out using n8n, which is the command, and -v. It will give you some numbers, which stands for the version number of n8n. Now what I can do, I can simply do n8n start. And this will start the n8n on my local machine on the port 5678. Now you can see this URL is showing up here. I'll copy this and open this up here. You will see this is having this n8n instance right over here. But if you want to set up some kind of authentication or maybe callback using third-party frameworks, you would need the webhook URL, and there you cannot use the localhost. So there's a solution to this. I'll press Ctrl C to this to close this, and again I'll do npm start, and this time I'll do npm start -fn tunnel. So this will port forward my instance 5678 to a temporary URL, which is this one, tunnel URL. I'll copy this one again, I'll paste it here, and you would find this exact same thing that you saw just a moment ago, which was n8n running, but this time you have a temporary URL over here. So this URL now can be used in order to authenticate or to be used as redirect authentication callback URL. Now, so this is the basic way, most basic way to set up this using npm. I do not prefer using this on the cloud itself. There you can use this Docker. So in order to use this Docker, by the way, all the commands I have on this blog, I'll link this down in the description. Now, using Docker, by the way, you have to install Docker on your local system or even on the cloud if you want to use this Docker method. Now I'll come here and I'll close this previous command. I'll do clear. I'll do docker -p to verify if Docker is running and if I have Docker installed on your PC or not. Now, the command I need to run is docker run -it. It means interactive, then -fn rm, which stands for if I close the container, it will remove the existence of the container. Now, -fn name stands for giving a name to the container to identify it. Then -p is port mapping, which maps my OS computer, my MAX 5678 port, to the container, which is this n8n's containers 5678 port. They both will be mapped. Now there comes another parameter, which is -v, which is volume mapping, which maps n8n underscore data. Now what is this n8n underscore data? In the previous step, we are creating n8n underscore data volume. So what is this volume? Basically, the volume is, you can consider this as a data source. Let's say this is a folder. We can consider this as a volume, and inside the container, and this is the container. This is the container where n8n is running. This is n8n is running, and this thing is my local machine, and this thing is Docker. Let's name this Docker. This is the Docker process, and the left one is my OS operating system. Now this folder, let's say this is n8n underscore data. This will be mapped to this folder now. So every data that we have over here will be directly mapped to my operating systems folder. Now let's get back to the code itself. I'll open up terminal. Okay, where is it? Yeah. Now the next parameter is the image name, which we'll be using. This is the remote URL for this image name, which is using this image n8nio/n8n. I'll copy this command, but before that I'll have to create a Docker volume. So I'll copy this and I'll go to my terminal and I'll create this. This will create a Docker volume. This volume can be found inside this path called /var/lib on your local system or on your cloud /docker. There you will find this volumes. Maybe this could be variable for you, could be volumes or something else. So you can find all the data over there. Now I'll copy this docker run container command, and first let me split this screen. Yep. Now it should pull this image from the remote repository. Then it will start this. In my case, I have already done it, so it just initiated this really fast, but usually it takes a minute or two. Now I can access this on the port 5678. There you go. This is the n8n container. But this is not the most viable way of deploying this. So I have to get this done in a config driven way. So for that, we can use Docker Compose, which does the same thing, but this is more flexible way. So for that, we have to create a file now. Last time we are running a command. This time we have to create a file which will be having all the configurations. So we don't have to run the command every time. So this is having all the parameters and everything. This time we have to run a simple command. So I'll close this process and this will immediately stop the localhost 5678. Now I'll clear this up again. I'll zoom in a bit so it's much visible. I'll use a nano. Nano is a command with which I can spawn up a local text editor on my terminal. So then I do create a file docker compose.yaml or yml, both are similar, .yml or .yaml, that's fine. Now I'll press enter. Here I can type anything. This will be being saved in this file docker compose.yaml. I'll copy this command, whatever I have here. I'll just simply change the Docker YAML version to 3.2 maybe. And this is the image that I'm using, just like the other way. Here we used to do -p. Here we have explicitly defined what are the ports that we need to map, which is 5678. In the volume, the left side is operating systems n8n data /var/lib/docker, and the right side is every data that you have inside the n8n container. Here we have a few environment variables. This is the key and this is the value. I'll add some more. I'll add this to which is n8n-port. Let me indent this properly. The port that I have defined is 5678, which was the default port, but the webhook URL, I have explicitly mentioned the domain on which I'm going to deploy this. Now, how would you define this domain? We'll come back to this cloud part in a moment. Now let's move forward. But before running this container, let me do this. This volume is now inside this /var/lib/docker as I mentioned. But personally, I don't like having this inside this var. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have this all the data backups in this directory itself. So I'll remove this volume section and I'll go to this volume, and instead of doing this volume name that we created before, what I'm going to do, I'm going to do /, which means in this directory itself, I'll do n8n-data-backup. Now I'll do Control X, then Y and enter. This will save this inside this docker compose.yaml. Now you have to install Docker Compose if you have not yet. All the commands are here in the blog itself. I'll do docker-compose, then up, then -d. -d means detached mode, which will be running even if I close the terminal. This will not close this process. I'll press enter. This has created a default network as well as the container. Now I can simply do localhost 5678. You will see I can create an account. Now I mentioned that the volume mapping is there. So I'll do ls, which lists all the files. You can see this directory has been created now. If I go inside this directory, n8n data backup, and do list, you would see binary data, crash journal, the log files, the config files, even the database SQLite files as well. All the nodes, everything is here on this data backup folder. Even if you want to migrate to another server later, you can simply copy this directory, everything in a zipped format, migrate this to another server, then decompress it here, and every data will be persistent. Now let me show you a simple demo if this is persistent or not. I'll create an account over here. I'll do Sam, my name, and maybe some random password, and do next. Account has been created. I'll just simply fill up this survey with some random thing. Get started, skip, and let's create a workflow. I'll name this my first workflow, and I'll probably add some dummy trigger. Let's add a trigger, maybe clicking on workflow should be fine. I'll close this up. I'll do Docker Compose and I'll do down, Docker Compose down, and this should be now not working. Now, this is persistent under this directory, n8n data backup. If I remove this n8n data backup, everything will be gone. But since I have everything inside this directory, I can simply do Docker Compose up and -d. And if I refresh, it will take some time to spawn up, and see, my workflow is here again. Now you can use this Docker Compose method on your server. Now, using cloud, there are two different ways. You can use this n8n cloud. You have to pay them 10 to $15 fee, and everything will be done by their side only. You don't have to do any kind of server configurations, command line, everything. Nothing you have to do. You have to pay them some fees, monthly fees, and you're good to go. But here's another way. You can self-host this on your cloud instance. I personally prefer using EC2, but you can also choose GCP or Azure. And there's another way is AWS's light sale, which is a lightweight method to get things done. Maybe you want to deploy WordPress, maybe you want to deploy something like n8n. This is the way to go. This probably takes a starter fee of $5, but since I have multiple methods or multiple things to run, I prefer using my own EC2 instance. So using EC2, you can simply run this Docker commands and everything on your terminal, and your n8n instance will be up. But there's a thing, you have to set up some domain subdomains, or maybe you have to set up some reverse proxies. You have to set up inbound rules, security configurations. Everything I have discussed in this advanced videos. I'll open this up in another terminal. I have created a 50-minute long video on deploying how you can deploy everything on AWS EC2 instance, starting from creating the instance to setting up this Docker containers, setting up the domain, setting up security rules and everything. If you want to deep dive into this advanced topic, here's your video. This will be linked in this blog itself. And this is the way how you can deploy your containers, n8n containers, in 5 different ways, even on the cloud as well as on the local machine.